I think it's important to say that, ARC is not a place for if you're concerned that your kid is smoking weed in the bedroom. Like, ARC is considered last house on the block. The majority of kids that come through here have tried different services, and whether they won't cooperate themselves or whether it's not a good fit. But ultimately, your journey starts with picking up the phone and telling part of your story, and we'll find the next step for you.
I came into treatment and was pretty annoyed at first, but eventually once I started understanding more about how my addiction affected me, how my addiction affected my family and stuff, I started becoming committed to want to try something else. And I eventually got off step one, which is basically just understanding your addiction and how it affected you, how your life was unmanageable, how you were powerless. And I just started working on the rest of the program and just committed. And once I sat down and put my head down and committed, I just kept going.
Adam Soos here for Rebel News. It is very rare when we talk about politics and policies that we get to discuss absolute goods. Very often what we talk about is compromises, and very often we talk about even settling for the lesser of two evils. Well, that trend was bucked at a recent UCP campaign announcement during the Alberta election that just passed, where Premier Danielle Smith took to the stage surrounded by people whose lives have been severely affected by addictions. And she committed, along with some of her MLAs, to tackle addiction head-on. They refuted the progressive and pushed strategy of safe injections, safe drug supplies, effectively enabled addiction. And as Mike Ellis put it, they rejected this policy of effective drug addiction palliative care that ultimately sentences people to death. The UCP and this province, Alberta, was going to go after the only ethical route when it comes to addiction. They were going to pursue recovery. The fact is, there's no such thing as safe, hard drugs. They quite simply do not exist. And it is so encouraging to see a government that sees people struggling with addiction as human beings. And they aren't just talking the talk, they are walking the walk. They have removed the $40 a day cost for recovery beds, and they've opened more beds than have ever existed in Alberta's history. This is an option moving forward that is filled by hope. By contrast, you look at places that have adopted and continue to push the safe drug supply route. They are in core cities, downtowns that have been overrun by crime and squalor. They have abandoned those people to that lifestyle. Danielle Smith, the United Conservative Party, and other ministers in Alberta are rejecting that, standing up for these people and treating them as human beings should be. Dr. Dean Voss of the Alberta Adolescent Recovery Centre has 20 years of research experience in adolescent addictions, and he was one of the key instrumental figures. In fact, many of the people who surrounded Danielle Smith on that stage at that significant announcement are graduates or people who have been through this program here. He is one of the people who is fighting back and rejecting the palliative care of free drugs, free drug supply, and continued addiction. And he is helping Albertans reclaim their life. So I'm very honored to be joined by him in just a few moments for a helpnotharm.ca exclusive interview. So Dr. Voss, I guess the first question I wanted to ask you, there may be a trend within society to maybe dehumanize people who are struggling with addiction, just to refer to them as addicts. Maybe for folks out there who don't know, what's sort of the average age of exposure? Who is subject to addiction? Is this something that affects everybody? Can you comment on that a little bit?
Well, our research is showing that kids start using around age 12 to 13 right now. And I think it's a pandemic, and my research and my experience over 30 years has been the number one issue that challenges our youth, and I'll speak to youth, is drugs and alcohol.
Do they come from all backgrounds? And some people might have a sort of idea in their head that this is other groups, this couldn't possibly happen to my kids. Does this happen to everybody across the board?
Well, we can show you that it's every walk of life. It's every walk of life. So it's not about gender, it's not about culture, it's not about wealth. It's an equal opportunity destroyer. So when the people are walking in, I'll tell you, there's every family that have multimillionaires that have walked in here. They love their kids. Everybody loves their kids. Yeah. And they're shattered. So when they walk in here, it's not just kind of some low bottom family. It's every family. That's it. They're not succeeding. And they're full of shame. So is the family. To bring them through, when we have our graduation, we have our 660th graduation on Friday. they walk across that stage, they've earned their life back.
Yeah.
Their families have come together. What a more powerful message. Then, as an organization, we have to go out. We got to run it like a business. We got to keep the doors open. This government has been incredible in supporting us. I'm telling you, I've never seen it like this. So I'm very grateful for them to come in and give us a voice and support us.
Other thing, you mentioned the government there. I did want to talk about sort of Mike Ellis. He worked as a police officer. He was incredibly impassioned at that UCP announcement. And he talked about so many of the other alternatives out there as effectively palliative care for 12-year-olds who are addicted. How important is it to emphasize actual recovery? How important is it to humanize these people? I don't think anyone for their own friend or their own child would encourage them to continue using drugs. They'd hope for them to be able to reclaim their life, right?
Right. I really support what Mike Ellis and Danielle Smith and Marshall Smith and these people are doing. It's the most support I've ever had in 30 years. But for me, I work with youth. I can give you the research and I can give you the science, but I work with the kids. There's no safe usage with kids. Their adolescent development is curtailed. You put them at high risk. Abstinence for our kids at ARC, they've crossed that place that it's just passé for me. There's no safe usage for these kids. But I think parents have rights, and parents have a right to save their kid's life. Parents have a right to do what's right for their kid to help them. But it has to be academically based. People are talking about research. I'll give you research from our facility of kids that we've raised their bottoms, that they're healthy today. So that's good science. That's good research. Now, all the other legal stuff, we've looked at that too. But when a parent comes in here and their kid's trying to kill themselves, I think they have a right to try and help their kid. I think that's their responsibility, actually.
So I guess my first question for you, you handle lots of the sort of community activities here, the people actually coming in to this facility. I can imagine it can be daunting, whether it's a youth struggling with addictions or a parent whose child is struggling. What is the process for accessing this facility like for reaching out for the type of support that you offer?
Well, sure. I mean, it's very easy to start with. You pick up the phone and give us a call, and your first call, you'll reach our receptionist, who will pass on a message to our pre-assessment coordinator. And for me, having come through the program, that call with our pre-assessment coordinator was just golden. She's a mum who has also been through the program with her son, so she was able to relate, which is really, really what had been missing from our journey a lot. Had an answer to all the questions, was super, super kind, lots of compassion around our son's story and our story. So really, just pick up the phone, tell us your story. We can relate, give us some details. We'll pass you to pre-assessment coordinator. And she's the first of many moms that you will meet that will relate to your story.
So that's one thing that's incredible. And Dr. Voss talked about the amount of people who themselves utilize this and are now involved, are now whether they're working for the organization, volunteering, whatever it may be. Why do you think it is that so many people, after receiving the benefits of this, come back? And if maybe you could share a little bit about your story as well.
Oh, for sure. The community here is incredible. Across the board. And it's that relatability piece that I mentioned earlier. The relatability for the kids coming in and the peer support that they receive. And then very similar for the moms, the dads, the siblings. There's a relatable group for everybody. So you connect very quickly on a different level because, parents are, as well as the kids, the parents are also full of guilt and shame. You really, really feel like a failure as a parent when you're at the point where you're calling a recovery centre. So to meet other people who understand that feeling, first of all, and then you realise that, it's not just me, and thank goodness. And the community that you build around that foundation is incredible.
And so if you could just talk a little bit more about your personal experience. You'd been through the system. You shared a little bit off camera, sort of at the end of the road feeling. And then this was your sort of last hope.
Really, my heart took me to ARC. Our journey like I say, it was a 7-year long journey of in and out of every mental health institution you can name. Right?
So for your son to be going through that, is there a sense that he was sort of tagged as a number within the system? Maybe people were doing their best, but here it was not only him being seen as a human being, but the family being incorporated, all that being brought together. Is that what you think the difference is here principally?
Oh, absolutely. The validation, like for him, for his feelings, and the fact that we were called on, like how we were behaving with him. I mean, when somebody is in addiction and causing chaos, you're blaming them, right? They're creating it, but you don't realize that you have bought into it as well. So our family system was chaotic as a result of the unpredictability. So for sure, yeah, everybody getting that level of support and being heard. And this ARC is a place of empowerment. They empowered my son. They empower, like the ladies group empower the ladies, the men's group, the siblings. It's just, it's a very, very nice feeling, I guess, in a very strange kind of way. I mean, ultimately, your family is broken. You're really, really upset. And to be offered a different level of repair and not be called out for bad parenting and shamed and guilt and all of that. It's just so different than anything that we had gone through. So, yeah.
For parents out there who maybe they've got a youth who's struggling with addiction or they suspect as much, for some folks, there might be concerns about barriers to access. So what would be, for example, if a parent's concerned about their kids, they've got questions, can they reach out? And then if it turns out that they do need help, is there a cost associated with that? How can people access this help?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's a case of picking up the phone. I think it's important to say that, ARC is not a place for if you're concerned that your kid is smoking weed in the bedroom. Like ARC is considered last house on the block. The majority of kids that come through here have tried different services, and whether they won't cooperate themselves or whether it's not a good fit. But ultimately your journey starts with picking up the phone and telling part of your story, and we'll find the next step for you.
And is there necessarily, if someone's struggling economically, is there a cost associated? Are there options for subsidies for people if those are concerns?
Yeah, there sure is. I know our fees are based on a sliding scale. So we will gather the information that's needed. A lot of our families are subsidised that come through the programme, so lots and lots of support. Like I really would hate for that to be a barrier for anybody to pick up the phone, and I've no shame in saying that our own family were subsidised. There's no way that we would have come through without that.
That's incredible. So the final thing I'd like to ask, if you don't mind, this may seem daunting for some people. So if you wouldn't mind, if we could just go on sort of a tour through the facility, look around and show folks out there who are maybe considering this, just all the sort of amenities, all the utilities and all the tools that are available here should they end up coming through the door.
Yeah, absolutely. I would do that with all my heart, I think. And that's why I changed the direction of my career, right, was to make this place easier for families to find. So if I can raise awareness about ARC and adolescent addiction, I'm all in.
Let's do it. Yeah. Thanks.
So this here is one of our 2 gyms here at ARC. There's a very big emphasis on fitness here at ARC. We have personal trainers that come in and train the kids twice a week, and it's really, really cool to see them starting to focus on their physical health. Yeah, so this here is our kitchen. We serve 2 full meals per day. We have 2 chefs, and they're incredible. Like the emphasis on healthy eating for the kids here it's remarkable. So we've just met up with Caden here. Yeah.
Do you mind commenting what your experience was like here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I came into treatment in 2021 and was using for 5 years at the age of 16. And I came into treatment and was pretty annoyed at first, but eventually once I started understanding more about how my addiction affected me, how my addiction affected my family and stuff, I started becoming committed to want to try something else. And I eventually got off step 1, which is basically just understanding your addiction and how it affected you, how your life was unmanageable, how you were powerless. And I just started working on the rest of the program and just committed. And once I sat down and put my head down and committed, I just kept going. Right? And then I got out of treatment and my life has changed drastically.
So yeah, this here is our activity room. So in between like group sessions, the kids would come up here, chill out, take a nap, watch movies, play pool, and just like connect with each other outside of the intensive therapy. So it works really well. Yeah, it's a nice chill out zone. Again, everything has been donated, which is fantastic. Yeah, so we're in our area here where the majority of the work happens for the families. We've got some therapy rooms here. So our therapy sessions are called wraps. So we have, like I said earlier, men empowering men, families empowering families, clients empowering each other, the peer counselling. There's ladies group going on at the moment where moms who have, like the current moms can come to ladies group, and ladies that have been through, like sometimes I go back to ladies group, and it's all about remembering where you've come from, right? And providing that hope for the new mom is very, very important. So that's what's going on right now. The clients are in a therapy session. Ladies group, men's group is on a Thursday. Just to our right here, we have what we call the TLO, which stands for our team leader office. So all of our staff members are in there, and that's where the real magic happens. That's where all the reports are shared, and our clinical staff are in there, peer counsellors, like Caden would be based in there that we spoke to earlier. And a lot of the connections with parents happen there. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on the recovery home piece of the program, which is something that's pretty hard to get your head around. I mean, initially when I called ARC, I must admit I was fairly daunted by that. Our son that was in the program was the oldest of 4 boys. So I was concerned. I was concerned about like the extra level of chaos. I couldn't handle my own kid and his chaos, so how could I take on others? But really, it is without a doubt the most therapeutic and fantastic piece of this program. So when you come into treatment, it's almost like a respite for parents. So my son stayed in the homes of families that were further on in treatment and knew how the program worked. So then in turn, he's very, very well taken care of, because these parents have also been through that same level of pain and shame and guilt and all of that. So they know how important it is to take good care of these kids, and they're starting to rebuild their life. So they offer them a place to sleep. They offer them like a place to decompress after their intensive therapy for the day. And they get to hang out with other kids. They would always go home like with an old comer who has a little bit more experience in the program. So like a very well thought out process. And then in turn, about 3 months into the program, you as a family open a recovery home. So our family started to take kids home from the program and integrate them back into like what family life is like. And it's really cool because the family are also learning. And a part that always gives me goosebumps, right? So on the day that we brought our son into ARC, this is the door that you come through, and you will meet the clinical director. Staff will be here waiting for you. It's a very streamlined process for the most part. So I really would say, like on our intake, there was no stone left unturned. We were sent a photograph of the parking space that we were to park to. These are high-risk kids coming in. Like the chance of them running is quite high. Sometimes they're brought here with police. Sometimes, the amount of lying that happened on our intake day. But what's our alternative, right? A few white lies. So yeah, we came in here, walked through with our son. And I'll just show you as parents we were brought into this room and had a couple of staff members supporting us. Obviously it's a very emotional time. And then Aaron was brought into a room just down the right here and they carried out an assessment on him, and ultimately the decision was made that he was going to stay. Yeah, lots of cool facilities here as well. We have obviously our basketball area. There's lots of different sports that happen here. We've got our cool fire pit area. We try and bring, the kids out when they reach a certain level. We'll hang out here. And then we have the hockey rink, which it's actually run by parents during the winter. So we have a team that take care of the ice. We have a lot of skates that are donated, and they get to spend time with tons of hockey sticks, a choice of hockey sticks, and they get to spend time hanging out here while they're on a break from their treatment. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, we were very fortunate today to be here at ARC speaking with Dr. Voss about the program that they have here, as well as the incredible tour of the facilities that we had. But I think most poignantly was the testimony of people who, whether it be family members of themselves, went through this program and are now contributing and helping out as others continue on the road towards recovery. That was truly powerful. It is great to see this government and the people working here advocating not for continued addiction, not for abandonment, but instead for hope and for recovery. As always, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. For Rebel News, I'm Adam Soos. Well, there are so many stories like this right across this province and indeed right across this country. The safe injection, safe drug supply, continued push by progressives and people not really orienting towards recovery. Well, it seems to be ceaseless. And that's why we're going to continue to cover these stories with our helpnotharm.ca campaign. We also encourage you to head to that URL, sign our petition if you're opposed to what they are pushing and if you are in favor of recovery.